Yes, hi Megan, hi everyone, and hello Mandy. Wonderful to see you all here. Yes, so I was pretty young when I joined the military. At 18, I was deployed, so I joined the military even before that because there was boot camp, of course, which is 4 months, and there's something before the boot camp even where you do all of these different tests and everything. And at such a really young age, this first time away from your parents. A lot of young kids, imagine now, what would you do with 18 years of age, right? And I was deployed. So it was pretty crazy, a feeling. And my sister was in the military, so there was already the bar that was set quite high. So when I joined, already some of the officers were like, oh, wow, you're the sister of. And I was like, yeah. And then, and it was funny. It was a bit of a family thing for us. Joining with my twin brother was the best thing ever because it really put us together, really the glue. We were already quite close, but sharing a tent with him was definitely a new experience. And tents, I'm not saying about a big tent. No, he had half a tent and I had half a tent. And we, under pressure, needed to build that tent. So imagine us twins building that tent when you're running and you're losing these PKs because it's the first time you're on the field and you have all of that equipment and everything and you're gone. And yeah, now we're laughing about it, but at the time, sometimes we really lost it. It was so funny. So then at 18 years of age, I was listed to go to Kosovo. So I did the training with my twin brother. They took him out of the training actually because they thought I would leave too, which was interesting because they didn't want to bring any women. And I thought that's not going to happen. So I thought I'd make myself indispensable and did the truck license because there was no one who had a truck license. So I thought, okay, how can I make myself indispensable that they need to take me? So for me, the only solution was that, get the truck license, which is an amazing thing to have. Even nowadays, when people see my driving license, they're like, you have a truck license? What? Why?
I got certified as a forklift operator. I'm never letting that go. It is really fun.
It was, it's so much fun, especially when you do the tout-terrain, when you go into the woods with the truck and you can really go crazy and it slides around. It's pretty cool. But
jealous in the extreme.
I know. Welcome to Luxembourg. We have some fun. And then I was then deployed, and it was the first time I was away from my parents, really, the first time. So I was in a country that I didn't know, in a region where there was a lot of tension. So it was before the independence of the regions, before the split, really. And there has been some fights on both sides between the Serbians and the Albanians. And there I was, me, with my 18 years of age with only men. Which was already in itself a crazy experience because, one thing people often forget, I'm 18 years old and I'm a woman, but then you are deployed with other people, mostly men, which are the same age as me, but young men are different than young women, especially when it comes to hormones, with the adrenaline and everything that is going on in their bodies, right? They're excited and, the sex drive they have. It's important to talk about that as well. It is a huge problem, right? How do you relieve yourself and how do you get that stress built down as a man, right? Because biologically, men, if you look at the story of female and male bodies, right, they have so much more testosterone, especially at that age, and anger, and they get really aroused, right? If someone pushes them in the club, you see them always like, right? Imagine them in a military war situation, right? So it was interesting being deployed with them, and there was quite some incidents where I needed to defend my body. So I had rape attempts. Nothing happened because I broke one's nose or whatever. I had the training, which is important to say, but a lot of other women in the armed forces, they are too afraid to either do something or to say something when something has happened. Because they're like, oh no, they're going to throw me out. They're not going to believe me. I'm so ashamed. They're going to talk it down and whatnot. So there's still a lot of problems around that because sexual assault and rape in the armed forces is a huge problem. Yeah. That's why I have spoken out about that as well. But I think we get into that topic maybe later a little bit. So that was the first experience. And then the second experience as well was being deployed. I really learned that what you see in the newspapers and the politics you hear from your politicians and your leadership that should represent you is something completely different than what is actually happening on the ground. And at a soft age of 18, to get this reality into your brain is shocking, right? Where you're just like, but it should be like this, right? We are here to help, and this should not happen. I was in a house, as an example, to do a search for guns and all kinds of other ammunition. And we found a little girl. She was, I don't know, probably 7 or 8, not older than that. And she was by herself. She said, oh, my parents have left. My mom left first, then my dad left. And she was alone for weeks with one cow, no windows, no sanitation, nothing. And then we found the baby wrapped up in blankets sleeping, which was her brother. So she was taking care of herself and that baby being a baby herself.
Yeah.
And we left her behind because that was not our mandate. They were like, we cannot interfere. And we will, and my supervisor said, oh, we will report this and another organization will take care of that. But do they? Do I know that for sure? Until today, I don't know. And it made me furious because I was like, there's a mandate and I get that. We are there for a mission. But then there also needs to be humanity, doesn't it? Right? And what does that have to play with it? And that was a really wake-up call for me at a very, very young age. And that really paved the thinking I have today towards my work and my advocacy, definitely.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there are plenty of people who never get to that point, never have that sort of watershed moment of, oh, wow, this is vastly different than what I thought, how I thought things worked. And it's really interesting for me coming from, strictly an American perspective. My husband is a vet of the Army. And so it's kind of interesting to hear you talking about your experience in Luxembourg and how much of that is echoed, honestly, like, across countries and oceans, how much of that is still very similar to a lot of the things that are dealt with in the American military right now. And thank you so much for sharing like that.
To say as well, what is really important, my military experience at the age 18 or the 5 years that I spent in the military was the best experiences in my life. I will explain it more in detail, but I learned so much and I'm very grateful for that. And I have met the most amazing people and worked with the most incredible people as well. So that is also to say, yes, there's, you are in the military and there's a job description to everything. And I knew that, I had the opportunity to get deployed and there will be some incidents here and there that just goes with the job. But other than that, the way you deal with it, but also what you make out of it for your future and also with who you work makes a huge difference. And with that, I was always very lucky.
Yeah. So you had talked about being surrounded by, vast majority as men in that setting. Why do you think it's important to have women representation within the armed forces?
Well, I think, I think it is like with everything, right? In the pharmaceuticals, for example, most of the pharmaceuticals we are using still today have been there and tested. I think it's like a mid-age, white, certain size male, right? A good story to that, Noah, my son, he was once really ill. He gets these flus once or twice a year. He's better now, but when he was younger, he had that. And the doctor was like, yeah, and he takes this and that and this and that and do. And I was just like, stop. If I give him all of that, my son, Noah, he is a beautiful, beautiful human, but he is tall and skinny, right? Like there is no flesh on his bones. He's very sporty. He runs around, he has a metabolism. It's incredible. He can eat what he wants.
Oh yeah. With boys, it's like they never stop eating.
Exactly. But the problem was with these medications, you could have killed a horse with it. I'm like, I can't give him all of that. His liver and his kidneys are going to scream after all of that. And the doctor was like, yeah, but that is the dose set for plus 12 years of age. Yeah. And I was like, that's the problem, right? We need representation in all fields. And that's the same for the armed forces. I did some research, and according to the House of Commons Library, so I'm also the patron of UNA UK, which is the only charity of the UN in the UK. And there I speak a lot for UN peacekeeping. It's one of their biggest departments there. So the House of Commons Library says that in the UK, women make up to 11.8%, say 16,740 around women, in the intake into the armed forces between March 2020 and March 2021. Thus, the Minister of Defense, the target that they have set themselves for 15% of army personnel to be females in 2020 has never been achieved. some other insightful statistics as well, again, women holding senior positions over the rank of OF5 and above make 5.6% of all officers. And then for you, the Navy and the Royal Marines, only 5 out of 127 women are officers, which is around 3.9%, right? So that's not much. And in the Luxembourgish military, when I joined, I was number 25 in total. We were 25 or 27 women in the whole military, right? And the issue is that for the Luxembourgish military, as any other military in the world, they seem progressive and inclusive to the outside world, but rarely reflect that attitude really within the organization. That is not always intentional, absolutely not, because I know I have been part of this institution for so long that they really try to give it the reflection of the society that we live in, right? Of men and women together. I will speak a little bit more about inclusivity later, but let me address now merely the importance of representation in the armed forces. This is also very true for any other domain you all work in, such as the media, educational system, government work, legal, retail, hospitality, health, sports, and so on. After all, our society is made up, as I said before, 50-50, right? So why do we favor one gender over the other, right? They always say, well, women can't do that. Well, you show me, right? Why? Because I was in the military, and I know exactly that when we had the last synthesis, which is a big march to the exam to do the boot camp finalization, I was carrying the bag of a man and myself, my own bag, for days, right? Because his knee was really not well, and I knew he would not pass if I would not help him carry this, right? And so I do not think that females and the female body is unable to deal with that pressure, right?
Yeah.
There's a thing which goes then, you can be what you can see. For my work with NATO then, there's an example which I think is really funny, and I will get to it I will not go into the whole detail, but it is a funny example when it comes to representation, right? I was around 25 when I was one of the country representative for Luxembourg in Norfolk, Virginia for NATO Supreme Allied Command Transformation Conference, where we actually discussed with the Allied nations the Crimea annexation, which is, look at that dilemma, right? Now, that many years on, right? How we have been now. I attended as part of a Luxembourgish team of 2. So there was the colonel next to me and myself, right? And everyone thought I was his secretary. And it was weird for me because no one would look at me properly. All of the generals with their medals and everything, they would just dismiss you. They would just pass by me, right? Until the opening ceremony, I was sitting in the first row with all of these other countries and their representatives and the Luxembourgish flag next to me with my colonel and everything. And the Supreme Allied Command Transformation General Palomares at the time, now former, he retired, opened the whole conference with the Luxembourgish national anthem lyrics, stating that we need more leaders like Tessy in the front. And everyone just looked at me, stopped, and they were just like, what's happening here, right? And for the next 4 days, I was literally grilled like a steak on the grill by everyone about who am I, what do I do, and so on, until I gave the NATO closing speech in the secret room for my country, for the whole conference, actually, which was an incredible honor. So yeah, it is just about, representation. Did I feel represented there? Not at all. But I believe that women don't see representation if they don't see it. They don't see themselves in it if we don't talk about it more. And I think it is a really, really important topic. And that's why, the media, how we do the campaigning, how we work with women as well to make them feel welcomed is extremely important to give young women an idea that this could be a career for them.
Yeah, of course. I love that. If you can be it, if you can see it. This is something that we've heard echoed from, people across the industry. Oprah has said it before, not seeing anybody on TV that looked like her made it very hard for her to think or dream about getting into it. And now it's like, well, what would the American pop culture landscape look like if we didn't have Oprah? Like, there truly that touches so many different things.
Everyone can be that one person.
Yes.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, I get on these chats, and we have a fairly large audience, but I still get messages from people saying thank you because, like, Power to Fly put somebody with purple hair on the air, or visible tattoos, or I talk about, I'm neurodivergent, so I talk about these things. And you're right, it's small things for us, but it's big things for other people. Seeing that can really encourage someone to really believe in their dreams and what they want to do.
Well, it's like you have your tribe, right? People that respond to what you do and who you are. And so do I, and so does someone else. I had in a recent job that I had, there was not much other representation than of just 2-3 people in the whole company. And I said, well, do you feel represented here as a woman? No, I don't. Do you feel represented here as a woman? No, I don't. But do they say anything? No, they don't. And that's the problem, right? Because they are too afraid. There's in the military, right? From the biblical prophet General Deborah to anti-Roman rebel Queen Butika, or even the Soviet sniper ace Ludmila Pashlyevchenko, right? Does anyone really know about them? No.
I do.
Well, I do. Well, history knows about the legendary female warriors, right? But how much...
Boudica was like fascinating. Go read about Boudica. You will be vastly impressed. Amazing.
Exactly, right? And that's the point. That's why we need to put this out there. That representation needs to happen in order for others to be inspired and learn and see themselves as someone who can continue on that path, right? Because we will never be someone else, and we should never be trying to be someone else. We're always ourselves, and we should always be unique as we are. But we can be inspired and take parts of that inspiration and make it ours and continue.
Yeah, of course. I love that. All right. So obviously it's been a little bit of time since you were in the military. How do you think the military has changed in regards to inclusion since your deployment?
So according to a study done in 2020, which was published by Georgetown Public Policy Review, militaries have increasingly opened, well, their combat roles for women, right? But critics, and that is interesting, have warned this will lower standards and effectiveness. And I was looking online, and I was looking and looking and looking, and I could not find credible sources which claim that effectiveness is hindered if women are in the armed forces. They even say, I even found quotes where it says that perhaps it even increases in certain circumstances, right? But again, no one talks about that, yeah? Then what does that mean? When you say, how has the inclusion of women changed since your time in deployment, I thought I'd give you an example first of time, because it's important to address that first. What does that mean, right? Time. My little life, my humble life, I give you a little timeline of 2 sentences. And then just imagine that for institutions, the military and politics, right? Since my deployment, I had 3 children. I got married, divorced, remarried, right? And there was a horrific pandemic, right? Just take that as an example. That is 16 years of time. Huge. I have changed jobs, changed titles, did all kinds of things, right? But then you still have, and I always need to laugh, you still have politicians, institutions such as WEF, right, World Economic Forum, who then put big as a title page, oh, WEF or whatever country says CO2 neutral by 2030 and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting because just going beyond 2 years is already abstract, right? And so hence, each time when I personally hear any proposal or vision going over 2 years of time, I often dismiss it in my head because 5, 10, 20 years prediction are absurd because politicians advocate that, right? 10, 20 years this will happen. But some have only maximum 2 terms, like in the US, that's 8 consecutive years. Thus, often these politicians are not even in politics anymore, or they have died looking at the average age of an American senior politician. So why would you even believe something like that and put it on your screen, right? On your newspaper thing. I think it's that needs to change, right? Then moving over to inclusivity of women. we have seen an upwards trend, and I'm really glad of it. The House of Commons, again, has done a statistic. It was 6% in 1990, something like that, of women inclusion in the military. And now we are, as I said before, 11.8% in 2021. So there's an upward trend, and we have the same in Luxembourg, and we have the same all over the world, right? Which is great. Yet, why do women stay away? It's because women always get told, this is not for you. You will never manage. This is, also in school, I have seen it in so many jobs. They don't even advocate it. When I do these classes for young women, they say, I had one girl, she said, I want to be that. And I said, that's great. And she said, yeah, well, my teacher told me I could never be that because it's not a job for girls, right? And that was what, a year ago when she told me that? And so where is the inclusivity there? We have an upward trend, but it is still, the narrative around is still missing quite a lot, I think. And so I see a positive change, but it's still very far. Even when I put on my social media pictures for my military time, and I'm a proud Army veteran, and that doesn't mean that I love war, because some people were like, oh, you love war. No, I don't, right? But I love to serve my country, and I love to serve humanity, to help where I can, especially women on the battlefield. Because the last thing you want as a woman on the battlefield, because women and children are often the ones that suffer the most, right? That are used as a weapon of war, right? Where they get raped and killed and tortured and whatnot, right? So the last thing a woman often wants to see on the battlefield when the military comes is another man, right? Not because they might be mean to them, but because they had such bad experiences, right? Especially the locals. I had an experience when I was in Kosovo. A woman, that we came there, and she undressed while screaming completely naked, because we needed to do a search on guns, right? And it came out that she was just traumatized. So she was raped before, and I don't know what. And I went to her and I said, I'm not here to hurt you. And you don't need to, this does not need to happen, And she's just completely PTSD and traumatized, right? And hence, I think having women in the armed forces, also in the police force, right? We have seen in the UK, police force taking advantage of their titles, right? With the murder that has happened. I don't need to go into detail of all of these things, right? And so I think having more women in armed forces and increase that representation will make us women as well feel better and safer and better representative. And the inclusion will grow because we will see it more.
Yeah, I like that. Actually, so we got a question from the chat here. Maria had written in asking, how can we motivate more girls to choose a military career or support them when they make this choice? So what would have, obviously this is something you were already drawn to do, but what do you think would be motivating for people, for women to join the military or join the armed services?
Well, I think, it's just about showing that it can be fun. And I learned so much. I always said it's my personal trainer, because you get so fit in the military, honestly.
Yes.
You run the whole time. No, but it is fun. I made my bestest friends there that I still have today. And I met my ex-husband there, right? And my whole life changed forever, right? And it's just, I think the military is not for everyone. And that is also some comments always on my social media when I post that people are like, well, why would women want to go in the military? And, why would you advocate that? It's not for everyone, but engineering is not for everyone as well. Also not for every man. Teaching is not for everyone. Hospitality is not for everyone. It is what you want to do. But you need to, at least when you have job fairs, should be exposed to the reality that it exists. Because some people often don't even know what they want to do, especially when you're young, right? And if you're just being primed and pushed towards one direction, then it's normal that you would go into that direction, right? And I think thus to talk more about it, right? And not make it that, that narrative again, as I said before, where people are like, oh, you love war and you love conflict and things like that. That's all, it's just not constructive and it's just uneducated. But, to really say, what are the benefits for women? What do you learn as a woman yourself, your self-growth and development, but also what do you encounter when you're there? Deployment is not just about war. It's about peace building. It's about mediation. It's about working with other cultures, other militaries, other people, you know, it's just such a pool of information and skill that you're learning, which is just extraordinary, right? And so I think that is how it should be, and that is how they will get more into it, because they learn more about it and see it more as an option. Then once they are in the military, I think a woman needs to be handled as a man. We don't want to be treated differently. And as such, if you are a woman that wants to join the military, you do the work. It is the same if you are a woman who wants to go in finance, you know your finance, right? So just have the capabilities and don't whine around, right? Also as a woman, just do what needs to be done as you would do in any other job. Be capable and work hard. And it's, you know, if it is for you, you will love it. If it is not, as in any other profession, you might change, and that's okay too.
I love that advice. Thank you. All right, we are almost out of time, but I just want to say a huge thank you, Tessy. This was wonderful to get to learn from you and hear more about your experiences. What should people remember after they leave today?
Well, you know, that change is constant, right? And representation matters, but real representation. That means that if you do something, do it from the heart. If you say something, walk the talk. And, you know, people trust you, people believe in you, and that is in all domains. The armed forces is definitely a career to consider. It's not for everyone, but just inform yourself, you know, inform yourself, what are the armed forces doing in your country, which is not just war, as some people would say, but they do so much more, do logistics, engineering, and so on.
Yeah, of course. All right, that is going to run us out of time today, but Tessy, thank you so much. This has been wonderful to get to talk to you.
Thank you. If you have any questions, write me on Instagram, Tessy_from_Luxembourg. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Tessy. All right, we are going to turn it over to the next recording, but thank you so much for spending time with us today. Bye, y'all.
It was fun. Bye, Megan.